It may come as a shock, but the UFC isn't the only MMA promotion company in the world. From Strikeforce to Pride, there are plenty of places to watch some of the greatest athletes slug it out. Many of the fighters from these other companies have made their way in and out of the UFC, giving them star power beyond Dana White's octagon. Today, we're taking a look at some of the biggest names to fight in multiple arenas. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and check back every week for more Ultimate MMA. The Dutch have been known to dominate combat sports, but Alistair Overeem is on another level. Overeem is a Strikeforce champion, a Dream champion, a K1 World Kickboxing champion, the only man to hold a championship in MMA and K1 kickboxing at the same time, and just the third man to win a fight in 4 different decades. Overeem got his big start at Pride Fighting Championships in 2002, defeating Yusuke Imamura by technical knockout in 44 seconds. From there, Overeem took on multiple fights in Pride, Strikeforce, and Dream, taking on other big fighters such as Chuck Liddell and Vitor Belfort.
Warning for Oh, look at this. This could be the end here of the fight. Watch out for the elbow.
Belfort surviving that barrage, gets the takedown.
And he's got a good guillotine. That's one thing. He has a real good guillotine.
And he taps out. Vitor Belfort is forced to tap out in the first round. Alistair Overeem records the victory.
Overeem finally made his UFC debut against the legendary Brock Lesnar at UFC 141.
The kick to the body. So much punishment to the body. This is going to be it. That's it. It's over. It is all over. Wow. Alistair Overeem.
With several knee strikes and punches, Overeem won by knockout in the first round. From there, Overeem has taken on huge UFC names like Stipe Miocic, Frank Mir, and Andrei Arlovski. Overeem hasn't stopped yet. The Demolition Man's next fight is set up for UFC Fight Night 187 against Alexander Volkov. Mark Coleman is known as one of the most legendary fighters in the UFC and MMA. Coleman was both a UFC heavyweight champion and a Pride Fighting Championships open weight Grand Prix champion. Say that 5 times fast. Coleman made his UFC debut at UFC 10, where he took down former champion Don Fry.
Pushing and continue to go for the technique.
This is pride now and heart, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's both competitors are digging down deep.
Well, Fry will get a break if he gets to the 15-minute mark. And that is all. Big John McCarthy.
After defeating Dan Severn via neck crank submission at UFC 12, Coleman became the first UFC heavyweight champion. After fighting in UFC against names such as Maurice Smith, Coleman would make his way to the Pride circuit, where he fought from 1999 to 2006. It was here Coleman would have a rematch against Don Fry.
Playoff comeback, facing the eternal tough guy in Don the Predator Fry, and it looks to us like he has got it. We're edging towards 10 seconds now, and there it is, folks. The end of the match. It appears obvious.
While it was a tougher fight, Coleman ended up with a win by unanimous decision. Coleman returned to the UFC in 2008 after being inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. At UFC 109, he would face Randy Couture for the first UFC fight between Hall of Fame inductees. Coleman was taken down by rear naked choke, but we still think he's one of the greatest of all time. Whether you love her or hate her, you cannot deny the unbelievable impact Ronda Rousey had on MMA. When Dana White claimed women would never fight in the UFC, Rousey came along and became one of the biggest names in the sport. But before she was making a name for herself in the UFC, Rousey was taking Strikeforce by storm. Rousey made her Strikeforce debut against Sarah D'Alelio at Strikeforce Challengers 18. Ronda won in classic Rousey fashion, by armbar submission in the first round.
Off the start was D'Alelio missing with the right. And wow. There she is. There it is, looking for the armbar.
More notably, it was at Strikeforce where the Ronda Rousey-Miesha Tate rivalry first began. Rousey got Tate in an armbar and dislocated her elbow, becoming the Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight Champion.
Again now transitioning to the arm. Less than a minute remaining in the first round. Ronda Rousey extending the arm.
She's got to squeeze her knees a little bit.
Tate hanging on, desperately trying to survive.
Oh, she's going to break it. Oh.
It's over. Rousey has done it. 5 professional fights. 5 first-round armbar submissions.
Not too long after, Ronda Rousey became the first woman to sign with the UFC and began her domination. Rousey had a record-setting championship reign, defending her title from fighters such as Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, and Betch Correia. Rousey would eventually lose to Holly Holm at UFC 193, and she never quite made a comeback. But we love to see rowdy Ronda Rousey in WWE. Wanderlei Silva is yet another fighter with legendary status who took on both the UFC and Pride circuits. Silva made his UFC debut against Vitor Belfort at UFC Brazil. It was one of the most embarrassing fights, as Silva got knocked out in 44 seconds.
Not be able to strike with the feet. Oh, he does with the hands though. Vitor Belfort is the winner.
But thankfully, Silva's UFC career didn't stop there. Silva won his next matchup against Tony Patara at UFC 20 after Silva landed knee strikes that knocked Patara out cold.
Fencing, or Mario Yamasaki will separate him. There's a knee and another.
he's done.
And another.
He's
And
done. That's
down.
gonna do it.
And the fight is over. Wanderlei Silva with the knockout.
Soon after that, Silva would make his Pride debut at Pride 7 against Karl Malenko.
A little power there.
Karl Malenko in big trouble here.
Silva got close to a submission, but ended up winning that fight by unanimous decision. Throughout Pride, Silva went up against fighters such as Quentin Rampage Jackson, Mark Hunt, and Ricardo Arona. Silva would finally make his way back into the UFC in 2007, where he went against Chuck Liddell at UFC 79. Silva lost that match by unanimous decision, but stated that win or lose, he always gives it his all for the fans. Silva would go on to fight Michael Bisping, Rich Franklin, all before his last fight in 2019. Dan Henderson is definitely a UFC legend, but he also made a name for himself as the Strikeforce Light Heavyweight Champion, the Pride Welterweight Champion, and the Pride Middleweight Champion. Henderson's UFC debut was back when the UFC was in a tournament style, at UFC 17. It was there that Henderson would defeat Carlos Newton in a single night to earn his first UFC championship.
It's smart because he knows that Dan's been through a war.
Oh my goodness, a big flip and a turn.
Beautiful.
It was during this fight that Newton broke Dan's jaw, but Henderson fought through the pain to earn his victory. Dan entered the Pride circuit after fighting in Ring's King of Kings. At Pride Shockwave 2005, Dan Henderson took on Murillo Bustamante.
This, I have to say, Murillo looks really good here.
Oh, good knee, Dan Henderson, as he was sprawling, as to not be taken down, and now he's just landing combinations, and that is it.
Overall, Henderson ended up with a record of 13-5 with Pride, with 8 of those victories coming via stoppage. From there, Henderson had an on-again, off-again relationship with the UFC. Dan would come back to fight Anderson Silva at UFC 82 and Rich Franklin at UFC 93.
Matt Hume on sweeping and stuff off his back, and we saw Henderson standing up. Big kick.
But now Henderson with a slip.
After a 16-month deal with Strikeforce, Henderson came back to the UFC for a third time. After fights with Vitor Belfort, Daniel Cormier, and Lyoto Machida, Dan Henderson was finally immortalized in the UFC Hall of Fame in 2018. Pride or Strikeforce? Which do you prefer? Are there any fighters that we missed? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, definitely hit that subscribe button and check back every week for more Ultimate MMA.